Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another live session. This will be the last live of the year, and I'm probably going to cue into that and prompt to that a few times just to let people know that this is the last time I'll be going live all year. Um, I think it's a pretty big accomplishment. This is the 47th live session this year. So maybe I should have taken a little bit more vacation or time off, but obviously I love showing up for the community. And so, yeah, 47 lives this year. And we're also, I'm 3 away from 100 lives, which again, I think will be fun. We'll do some sort of giveaway or something when we hit that 100th live, which will be the third week in January. So I'm excited for that as well. I haven't come up with what I'm going to give away, but we'll do something really fun, and we'll prompt to that. So let's dive in. A few really interesting things to chat about today. As I mentioned last week, if you were here last week, I was a little indecisive on whether I was going to go live today or not. But we had a good attendance last week, so I figured I'd go live one last time this year. And again, this will be the last live. So after this, I'm going to take the next couple of weeks off, and then Tuesday the 3rd, I'll be back for a new live session. So if this is your first time here, my name is Jeff H. Sipe. The business is practiceinterviews.com. Special offer today, $100 off the interview mastery course if you use the coupon code 2022. And I will, if anybody, I strongly encourage you to sign up for our email newsletter. We'll be sending out one last end of year special offer to anybody who's signed up. That's just basically going to practiceinterviews.com and signing up for an account. I do one-on-one interview coaching, one-on-one negotiation coaching. And then if you go to practiceinterviews.com, tons of free resources. Join our Slack group. There's over 3,700 members in the Ask Me Anything bucket, which is where we throw all of our questions. People are doing free practice interviews with each other. And then I have 9 free resources on the website as well. The website, the next time I come back for the live next year, it should get a complete facelift. I'm going to it's getting gutted and redesigned because it's not great. So what I want to do is I just want to spend a minute, and obviously we'll get to all the questions, but the video I did yesterday, I really want you to go, if you're watching this now, hang out with us for the live, but go watch that video I did yesterday. If you use OpenAI or ChatGPT, that is going to save you a ton of time on your hypothetical interview answers. Just trust me on it. Get into that tool. It's free. Sometimes they'll kick you out because it's so busy right now because of all the hype. But wow, for clarifying questions and frameworks, let's use OpenAI to really assist us in our interview prep. It will save you tons of time. And more, I'm going to be using those tools in my videos to show you how to save time. Prep is hard. Let's save as much time as possible. Trust me, watch that video. It will really, really help with your prep. If you like what we're doing today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, consider subscribing. This is it for the rest of the year. Last original content video was yesterday, last live today. So I'll be back on the 2nd with a new original content video and the 3rd with a live. So let's dive in. We'll cover all the questions, and we'll see how long it goes today. Thanks for being here. Hi, Jeff. You have a few questions. How long to hear back following a team match call? Yeah, so with team match calls, typically you should hear back within about 5 business days, very similar to the interviews. So if you haven't heard back, definitely follow up. Jeff, your content is amazing. Just signed your contract with Google Dubai. Amazing. Congrats. Been really fortunate to have a number of clients in Dubai as they've built that office. So really dying to get to Dubai. I really want to visit that city. I was supposed to end up there about 4 years ago, and it didn't happen. So I'd love to visit that city. It's amazing. But congrats. Like, all the hard work is on your end, so good luck. And thanks for being here. Well, Dawn, amazing. Yeah, it's crazy to think that it was 47. That's just a lot. And sorry, I am going to get rid of my layers here in my office. The heating just tends to kick on and be very, very hot. All right, let's get to some of these other questions here. What are the next steps after a team match call? With a positive team match, what should be happening is you should be going from team match into, well, it actually depends. Did you go to HC first? If you haven't gone to HC, you'll go to HC next. Then with a positive HC, you'll get into the negotiation phase. Some of these are coming after HC. So if you've already been HC approved, you go right into the negotiation phase. Total comp target for L4 strategy and ops in NYC. Yeah, you should really be targeting the high twos total comp year one. The strategy and ops roles aren't going to blow you away on comp. It actually might be, no, I take that back. L4 strategy and ops in New York, it may be a little less. It may be like 240 to 250 year one total comp. So let's get to your next questions. How much can base typically percentage wise move? How about equity? Seems like bonus is fixed. Can you give some examples of how you would negotiate? Okay, so base, if you're going to negotiate base with Google, I think this is a constant sticking point, right? Like the reality is that base is their least flexible, and it's least flexible at most of these big tech companies. The band percentage wise is going to be very small. So let's say for strategy and ops, for example, they come in with initially like 150K base. You're only going to be able to move that to maybe like 160, for example, maybe 162, 165 max. So usually the base bands, especially at a 4, from the first number to the last number will only move about 10 to 15K. Equity tends to be the biggest mover, meaning they might come in with something really low, like 100K in equity. You might be able to move that into the over 200, low 2s. So equity can be oftentimes doubled or more, and then the higher the levels you go up, the more that will increase. Negotiation is an art. It's not just, so it's not as simple as me saying just do all these things, right? Like, because I don't know how they're going to respond. So much of it is based on their response. And that's where I'm most efficient as a negotiation coach, is really on the scripting and then the pushing. But you're just going to come in with graciousness and kindness and say, hey, I've done my research. I've talked with current and former Googlers, and my year one expectation is 297, 500. You'll pause. You won't say anything. Let them respond. However they react, thank you. I appreciate it. Really appreciate if you'd advocate for me, partner with me, and take my expectations back to the comp team. And then whatever they come back with each time, just tell them you want to think about it. Take the time each time they iterate, and then look at your original numbers. Use that offer template on practiceinterviews.com to run your numbers. And then just make sure you're pushing in secondary and third negotiations, but you're not pushing too much. You can't just go back and say, hey, I want that original anchor. You got to show some flexibility in the process. That's really high level. Again, it's a pretty nuanced thing. So negotiating is not as simplistic as just regular scripts. Like, we got to respond and react to the data that we're given. But I hope that helps. Hey, Jeff, I cleared the interview but stuck in team matching phase. Should I wait or look for other opportunities? Well, remember, with the team matching phase, proactivity is key. So ask your recruiter how often you can touch base with them, how often you should be checking in with them. And then specifically from there, what you're going to want to do is you're going to keep checking in with them, but occasionally you can come across opportunities that you think are a fit. If you do, less is more. Send them one position, send them 3 to 5 bullets for why you're a match, and then send them your updated availability over the next 2 to 3 weeks to have that team match call. We got to do some proactive work of scouring careers.google.com and spend some time on that careers site. But the reality is that, it's hard. But I don't want you to wait. I want you to be proactive. But if you were to have another job opportunity or another offer, I would say don't wait on Google at this point. Take it. And then if you have to burn a bridge, burn a bridge. Happy New Year's. Wishing success for the community in 2023. Yeah, and I think, remember, Hey, is it going to be the most fun way to spend some of your downtime over the next 2.5 weeks doing interview prep and getting ready for some potential interviews next year? Maybe not, but you have the downtime. So it's really critical to take that time and say, well, what's the value of this time if I were to put in a little bit of effort now before we get back to the grind of next year? How do you get prepared as interviews are going to come up in January and February? And you can start getting organized now. Hey Raul, great to see you. What are your New Year's plans if you're okay to reveal? So yeah, absolutely. I had a pretty big trip planned to a bunch of different locations. It fell through. Sometimes life gets in the way of our travel plans. So staying local in San Diego. Yeah, thanks for asking. Not going anywhere. Staying tight. Maybe a little bit of local California. I'm very lucky to be in a place where we can go to a million beautiful locations just by hopping in the car for an hour or two. So thanks for asking, but nothing big. I'm hoping to re-up on that trip that I had planned next year, hopefully. Hey Jeff, I was supposed to have my last round interview this week, but recently I was informed that it's been postponed to January 2nd. Okay, that's a bummer. Sorry to hear that. Recruiter told that HM is expecting to complete the process by Q4 until last week. Will it be a problem? No, I mean, I think the only problem is like the mental reset, right? Like we spend so much time preparing and practicing and getting ready and like all the anticipation and anxiety and stress and all those things. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, you just got to sit and wait till next year. Just stay active in your prep, right? Now, maybe you're checking in and maybe you have like a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday cadence where you're doing an hour of prep each evening. But just calendar out that time. You got to make sure that the prep is consistent. If the prep is consistent, you'll be ready to roll next year. But I wouldn't worry about anything. Resets happen all the time, and that's just totally outside of your control. Hey, Jeff, I was HC approved about 8 months ago, but only got notified recently, so began team match with very few months before HC expires. Okay. I've done one team match call, but no progress from there. My recruiter hasn't been so responsive, and I think my HC approval has expired. Any thoughts on this and how I can proceed? Well, HC approved 8 months ago. You should still be valid. It should be for a year, and they have done some extensions based on the freeze. So you might get a little bit of wiggle room there, but I don't think it's expired. Not a responsive recruiter is tough to navigate. You just want to continue to check in and stay in touch with them. This is going to be tricky. I mean, I just want to call out the reality, right? L3 SWEs are going to be case by case priority needs only hires. So there's just going to be way less hires for L3s. So it is going to be challenging. So just continue that proactivity. Even if your recruiter isn't that responsive, check in once every week, check in once every 2 weeks. And you can always ask them, how often should I be checking in? Once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month? You may not want to give them that once a month option based on where we're at now, but just continue to check in, continue to push as much as you can. Hey Jeff, amazing thumbnails. Yeah, today, thank you. Today's was okay. Any thoughts about how is GroupM as a company? GroupM. Tell me more. I'm not familiar with GroupM. Susan, I don't know what happened there. We got a square. So come back and retype your question if you like. You're welcome. Thanks for being here. Thoughts on flex jobs versus Indeed versus Monster, particularly for program management roles. I'm already active on LinkedIn. Well, I think all three are fine resources, right? You're just using those tools. You're using those three websites to just find the appropriate jobs. I mean, Indeed is kind of jumped up as the number one because Indeed has like pretty good information on the companies typically. I always like to back this up with Glassdoor just to see if I can get any additional reviews on these organizations, but not one versus the other. Remember, if you're active on LinkedIn, Like, what does active mean to you? Would be a good question. Like, are you active in terms of you have an updated profile, active in terms of you're constantly posting, commenting, liking? Like, active on LinkedIn means you should really be doing at least one thing a day on there, whether you're liking somebody else's, you're throwing out a post, etc. So stay active in the program management community. So really like liking, commenting on what other program managers are putting out there, especially at maybe some of the companies you want to look at. How much time is okay to request for a start date with relocation? Would like to give 2 weeks notice at current job plus 1 week to pack and move across the country. What's reasonable? I always thought with my relo clients, kind of the standard was 4 to 6 weeks with a stretch of 8 weeks. 3 weeks that's rough. That's pretty tight, right? So at least 4 weeks, up to 6 weeks, and obviously I'd give my clients flexibility based on their needs. Hey Jeff, I failed to say in the thank you note before I was asked to schedule the next interview for early January. Should I send a note or let it go? Yeah, Liz, you can just let it go. I think that the expectation on thank you notes has really diminished quite a bit. And then it just seems like an afterthought if you do it later, right? So, yeah, I would just say skip it. You know, if a thank you note's going to go out, I think typically you got to get it out in 24 hours or less. Hey, if it doesn't happen, it's just not a big deal in today's world. But if it's less than 24 hours, send it. More than 24 hours, I would just let it go. And this is just my advice for everybody. Okay, I had a L7 GCP Bay Area BDRRK in all the interviews, three times L8 interviews, and they asked me to meet informally with the managing director. Okay, cool. Assuming it went good, now I'm waiting to hear back from the recruiter. What is the next step they are doing in the background? Is there an HC? What should I expect now? Your recruiter will know best. Remember, every process is a little different. It sounds like this is a pretty specific role with a specific team. So typically that would just be taking you to HC. Maybe not. Maybe you go straight to the offer review stage. We don't know. So just keep a pulse with your recruiter. Remember, I know I'm very tough on recruiters, but they are the source of truth. They know exactly what's going on for their role, whereas I don't really know. I'd just be guessing. But I mean, the likely next step is really take this conversation very seriously. Great energy, enthusiasm, excitement, great questions. Ask a lot about them, what they love, etc. And then it's likely HC after that. Recently took a position in which I strongly believe its salary is under market. It does come with a bonus each year and a raise yearly. Okay. Okay. So I don't know if there is a question in here, but let's talk about it, Carlos. So, you know, when we think we're under market, we just got to really crush our work, and then 3 to 6 months into the job, maybe we bring it up to our lead or our manager and say, look, you know, I'm really looking to increase my earnings. What would I need to do over the next 3 months to get a pay raise? And then you outline a plan, a step-by-step plan that if you achieve these items, you'll get a pay raise. So often what happens is we are underpaid, but we don't have a strategy, a plan, a process to get paid more. And that's the biggest thing. If you map out a plan, 3 months, 6 months down the road, you achieve all those items and they say, hey, I'm sorry, I can't give you a pay raise now, leave. Because you mapped out a plan, there was an agreement, at least a verbal agreement in place, and then it's time to go. You know, oftentimes people do land in jobs where they're underpaid, under market, and it happens, but you need to push the process to have good planning to increase that comp. What is more important? Either technical skills or communication skills if you have to choose one. I think personally, it depends on the job. I mean, obviously, if you're going after a software engineering job, you got to have the technical skills. If you can't code, if you're at the level of system design, and even if you go up that scale to large scale system design, I mean, you just have to have those technical skills. But with what we saw over the last week, right? OpenAI and Chat GPT, like, look, the answers are going to be there. Those systems can pull the code for you. So I think that the default, biggest, most critical, and important skill as we move forward in a society that's more driven by AI is communication skills will bounce to the top and be the most critical skill set. And, I talk about this with a lot of people. I title myself as an interview and negotiation coach, but I mean, really, I'm a communications coach. I teach communication skills and I love teaching communication skills. And we can always do better in our communications game, myself included. So I think as we move into the future, communication will be the most critical skill set for any organization. But again, if it's a technical role, you got to be able to crush that technical stuff. Great question, by the way. Hi, Jeff. Had team match call. It was positive. Asked questions about what he liked. No camera due to him having Wi-Fi issues and had to switch to the phone. Okay. Ended 5 minutes early in the recruiter call today. Worried because we ended early. Don't worry about that. Like ending early, like maybe there was some time lost in switching from one platform to another. Ending early is not always an indication of something bad. Maybe they heard everything they needed to hear and they really liked you, right? So we try to read into this, and hey, like we all try to control all these things in our lives that are outside of our control, but you did the good work. You got to that stage. There's nothing you can do now. So just take the call. But just because it ended early, it's not a bad sign. And just because it goes a little long isn't always a good sign. Yeah, of course, I'm going to spend more time with somebody I like, but sometimes maybe the answers aren't very clear and they're just trying to dig more to confirm that they don't want to move forward with you. So while more time is typically good, it's not 100%. Hello, Jeff. Is it still helpful to follow up with recruiters and hiring managers for coming 2 weeks after submitting applications, which is what I usually do? Look, it's going to be slower, but I think that the way that the holidays play out, like this week, even into middle of next week, you're probably still going to get quite a few people in the office. Now, I mean, could somebody be taking off the last 2 weeks of the year? Yeah, absolutely. But I would still drive at things for the rest of this week. When submitting applications, sometimes it can be hard to know who to reach out to. But yeah, I would suggest doing it. But yeah, once we get to kind of the second half of next week, that's where you're probably going to want to start to shut it down a little bit because you're just going to get buried in their inbox. And then when they get back and they clear things out, yours might fall to a lower priority. While you were at Google and now, was the hiring bar at Google changed and has it become easier or harder to land a job at Google? I think it's about the same. I mean, I think that in reality, if you were to go back, I started in early 2013. I think if you were to go back to like the 2000s, some of those really early hires, I think that then it was probably a little bit more challenging. I think they had to lighten it a little bit, but I haven't seen that it's gotten easier. I think they've done a good job on the law of diminishing returns. So they're interviewing, overall, they're interviewing less, which I think is good. But I don't think the bar is going up or down. I think it's staying about the same. Again, it's really hard for me to have that pulse 100% just because I'm not there. Jeff, could you give an estimate of base and total compensation for a business data analyst L4 role, 4 years of experience with a double master's? So data scientist, L4, location, please. That's the last critical data point I need to help. Hi, Jeff. So I got rejected after a domain-related knowledge for Google. The recruiter said I can apply to other jobs or the same position in 6 months. Do I really have chances if I reapply? Yeah, absolutely. Like a lot of people, the vast majority of people don't get in the first time. Now, can apply to other jobs. You can apply to other jobs anytime you want. Like they can't really block you from that. You might want to learn and increase your skill set from an interview perspective, but the same job, you should wait a little bit of time and give it space. Other jobs, you don't need to wait. Like they made that up. I don't even understand that comment. So if it's something pretty different, apply because you might get another set of eyes, another recruiter, another recruiting team, and maybe there's some potential there. How do you plan to conduct sessions like this when the channel grows? How do you plan to execute streams like this? Well, the audience was about, I know this is, it may be weird, there's 37 people on the stream right now. In March, there were 150. So, I mean, I think that the numbers, I was used to see, it was rare for me not to have over 100 people in the stream at one time. So, remember, well, maybe you don't know. I mean, I can share some insight. I'm always happy to provide like what goes on in the behind the scenes, but YouTube views, everything's down by about 2/3, right? So YouTube views are down 2/3, watch time is down 2/3, subscribers are down 2/3. Even if we look at the 41 people now, typically this would be into the 120s easily. So that's down 2/3. So everything has really slowed down. The other thing that I guess I'll announce is that I will be spinning out a second channel. So there'll be 2 YouTube channels next year. I don't think that the second channel probably will not have lives to start, but I'm flipping the script a little bit. Obviously, everybody knows I'm pretty tough on these companies and recruiters, so I'm going to try and help them. And hopefully some of the learnings that I get from helping these corporations, usually medium or growing companies with their hiring processes and interview strategies, that will inform this audience, and I can give more tips, more tricks. So I'm hoping that there's some duality there that's really going to help. But I think these streams execute pretty seamlessly. If you go back and watch some of the streams from earlier this year, they're like 2.5 hours. And I'm always willing to go as long as the questions are coming in. If the audience ever hit a crazy number, I would probably need to have a second person filter out some of the questions, have no repeat questions, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I haven't really thought too much about that. I think it's been so slow lately that it hasn't really been a concern. But obviously, everybody who's here, I sincerely appreciate it. Depends on person to person. I have been a friend. Okay, so we're talking about the hiring bar. And just so everybody knows, Raul actually just got the job at Google. So a friend who's been contacted by HR and then been hired easily in 2 weeks' time. Well, there are people like me who are still waiting to hear back from HR. Yeah, again, it's really hard to say on hiring bars. I mean, eventually, if you're going to scale a company the way Google scaled, you can't have such a rigid hiring bar that so few get in, because then the company can't actually grow. So over time, has that bar probably come down? Yeah, in my time there, I didn't see a changing of that. It stayed pretty consistently difficult to get in throughout. Happy holidays, and thanks for all you do to help us. Thank you for being here. I can't do it without the community, so I appreciate everyone here as well. Team match call was Thursday, recruiter call today. Okay, good luck. Let us know how it goes. Hi, Jeff. Had Google L3 interview for a non-technical role. Which salary can I expect for Dublin, and how does the HM rate me after the interview? I mean, non-tech in Dublin, all in euros, right? And then your equity will come in USD. But if you just translate it all to euros, it's going to be in the low ones, probably, is what I would expect for a total comp. The hiring manager is rating you on your overall background, just how you did in the interview, and they give you a bunch of different scores. So starting at the top, strong hire, higher, leaning higher, leaning no higher, and strong no higher. Those are one of the ratings that they would give you. Followed your channel diligently before my interviews at Apple and Google this year. Google didn't go further than Team Match. Got Apple. Been working as an EPM 6 months now. Thank you. Awesome. I mean, Apple is obviously a killer organization, great organization to work for. That's amazing. And I tell all these people, I know that the branding has a lot to do with Google because the audience is heavily Google and people want to get into Google, but the foundational skills will work anywhere. And Apple and Google actually have somewhat of a similar interview process. They're not too far away. They both definitely do the behavioral and open-ended side of things. Okay, so we're hitting the 30s. At the 30s, I'm going to do a quick 30-second shout out to the services. $100 off the interview mastery course today if you use the coupon code 2022. That will expire at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time today. I do interview coaching and negotiation coaching. I will be available the last 2 weeks of the year if you need me, so I'll be here. You can check my calendar at practiceinterviews.com. Got tons of free resources. Join our Slack group, free, 9 free resources on practiceinterviews.com. They're just going to be valuable for you. If you didn't check out that video yesterday and you want to save time in your interview prep, check out the video yesterday. It will save you a ton of time on your hypothetical prep using OpenAI and ChatGPT. If you like what we're doing today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, consider subscribing. This is my 47th live of the year, and this is the last one. I'm going to take the last couple of weeks off of YouTube and then be back on the 2nd of next year with original content, 3rd with a new live. Hello, Jeff. After 7 months of interview process, you got the offer today. Awesome. For the TPM L4 role in India. Thank you for your tips and your channel. Keep up the good work. And you need to negotiate that offer. Okay, TPMs globally are a very hot position. Just make sure that you're driving up the base a little bit, but really try and drive up that equity. TPMs are making really good money this year in all markets, so make sure you negotiate, and congrats. Hi, Jeff. I had a Google L3 interview for a non-technical role. Oh, okay, we answered that one. I know of someone that is working for Google now, but during his interviews, one of them ended after 17 minutes. So length of interview is not an issue if you aced it. Yes and no. A 17-minute interview is typically not a good indication. And if anybody gets into the interview process at any company and you have a set amount of time, so like the Google interview is 45 minutes. This means that this interview showed up for a third of the interview. You need to let your point of contact know that that happened. That's unacceptable. Even if they're giving a good rating, 17 minutes means that they're not doing their job to assess whether the candidate is a true fit for the organization. They need to be held accountable for those bad actions, okay? That's not acceptable to show up for 17 minutes for a 45-minute interview. And so I think it does matter. I think it will typically not work in the candidate's favor the majority of the time. We've got to give feedback when they don't turn their camera on, when they show up as a jerk, or they give us a very, very short interview like 17 minutes. Thanks for that data point. Helpful though. Can you give an estimate of base and total compensation? Oh, Mountain View. Okay, data scientist. So I'm just going to tell you, I don't care about your experience or double masters. And here's why. And I say that with an aggressive tone just to kind of like bring some fun to it. Comp doesn't care. They're not looking at that information. They're looking at role, level, and location. They don't really care about you in terms of your background or experience or interview results. If you made it to that part of the process, they're just taking that data and then any additional data like role prioritization if it's a priority role. Now, data scientists are getting paid pretty good these days. Base should probably be somewhere in that 160K range, maybe a little bit more. Total comp for an L4 data scientist, I haven't done one of these in a while, but I mean, I would hope that you would be pushing into the mid to high twos, especially high twos. I would definitely be anchoring in the threes, like definitely up into the 340s, at least for an anchor. Anchor high for a data scientist, because if there's some prioritization, you might be able to drive that up. So you may want to even anchor in the 350s, 360s. I probably wouldn't go above that, but I would imagine for a data scientist, maybe they can push it to the high twos. Year one. I hope that helps. Received and signed an offer from Google the week of Thanksgiving. Watched your videos during the team match, hiring committee, and negotiation phase. Thanks for all the great advice. Thank you so much for being here. I mean, this is great. I mean, with our small audience today, we're getting lots of good success stories, and And that's what I look for. It just reminds the community that it is possible, even though hiring's at about 50% of the rate that it would be in a good economy. Congrats and good luck. Is ghosting normal in the tech industry? Other industry recruiters give me a yes or no. Tech recruiters keep ghosting even if an offer comes months later. Had a verbal FANG offer plus comp, then was ghosted. If you get ghosted after you have an official offer at a comp company, at a big tech company, like, you should be hitting up anybody and everybody, to anybody you attach to in that process, anybody whose contact information. And at the end of the day, if you can't get in touch with anybody, I would put them on blast on LinkedIn, like, because you got nothing to lose at this point. I mean, people might argue with that, but I would just say, I got an offer from this company, and you literally tag the company and say, I'd really love to hear back from somebody because I got an offer and I never heard back. Right? And somebody will get back to you. I can pretty much guarantee it. They don't want that bad branding. You could take a very nice and gracious tone if you put that out on LinkedIn. Try and find another person within the organization, a recruiting coordinator, a sourcer, an interviewer that you connected with, either via email or on LinkedIn. You got to try all the workarounds if the recruiter doesn't come back to us. I'm sorry to hear that. It sucks. Follow up. How does the HM rate me? As in, do they decide my level? Do they rate me on a scale, or is that up to HC? So again, hiring managers, if they meet you in the team match, there is not going to be a rating. If it's a formal interview, they'll give you a formal rating. What they're doing is they are confirming what appears to be the level that the interviewers are prompting on with a statement of support. So they write up a little blurb on why you should be hired. And then after they write up that blurb, they write out this thing, and then they confirm level with a statement of support to hiring committee. But that will be backed by kind of what the interviewers are saying, and they'll talk to the recruiter about it and say, hey, what does the leveling look like? So there'll be a couple conversations, but yeah, they can't typically say, hey, you should be 2 levels above based on that, but there might be some indications that you should be up leveled, maybe need additional interviews, etc. Hey, the recruiter said that I did so well that they don't have any negative areas, can't hire now, to improve, and my candidate shows hire, lean hire. But they get in touch with me after the hiring freeze. Yeah, absolutely. Now remember, be proactive. They might get in touch with you, but with your recruiter, say, hey, I know you're not hiring now. What I'd love to do is create a touch-base cadence with you. Is it okay if I touch base with you once a month? Let's take that control back, because yeah, there'll be another opportunity in the future for sure. Any news if new roles at Google will open up in January? Yeah, new roles will open up, but I would be really surprised if next year isn't super slow all year. I think that we have to just look at 2023 as a slow hiring year across the board. I think the first 2 quarters will be slow. Will they open up new roles in January? Yeah, they're going to open up new roles every month. I don't think it's going to be as robust as it's been in the past. And that's really not the way that Google works anyway. Usually it takes them a while to get their hiring priorities together. And typically the hiring pushes really start in later in the year, like Q2. Jeff, is spinning up the second YouTube channel so that you can bring us the cheat codes? You're the MVP. Spinning up the second channel is, so what I know about my business, and I'd like to talk, we bring in some of this business stuff in some of these lives. What I know about the business is the only reason my business was successful was because of YouTube. So I have created a new business. I've spent the last 5 months building it. And so now with this new business, this is a spin out, and we'll see how it goes. But, I want to be honest with the community. This may end up being from a part-time pivot in the beginning to more of a 50-50 pivot to moving away from informing the community on a one-on-one basis like we're doing now. As a business owner, it's just really important that I continue to pivot and enhance and change my business as an entrepreneur. And none of those decisions have been made yet for the foreseeable future, at least for the first 6 months of next year, I plan on continuing to do all this that's based for individuals, but I do have to make sure that I'm making the right decisions, and I do want to be candid with the audience. The recession and economy really hurt my business, so I've felt the impact just like everybody else, and I don't think I think I've been pretty open about that. But what happened with the economy and what happened with this recession really made me look at how I'm running my business and what I can do differently. And the spin out business was always part of the future business model and business strategy, but it came a lot earlier than expected. So we'll just see how it goes. But I do think some of that information will inform this community in a really, really positive way. I interviewed for GCP, Partner Eng. Okay, after a week, I reached out. Recruiter was apologetic for the late response. If the result is no offer, positive outcome, recruiter would actively reach out. No, not necessarily. So just stay in touch with them. They may just not have all the data. That could be a likely reason that they didn't reach out too. Maybe not all the interview feedback is in. Maybe they're assessing other candidates, etc. So we're just gonna have to wait and see and just stay proactive with your recruiter. You're welcome. I got rejected for a CE L5 last June. And when I reached out to the recruiter last week, she came back saying they're still working on headcount. Okay, let's see if there's any more here. And asked me to follow up next year. What numbers are you seeing on the customer engineer roles in the US? They're coming through, but they're slow. Okay, they've been really slow. So yeah, I mean, obviously I have a lot of the GCP stuff, it's hard because it's a little skewed in my world because I get a lot of CE negotiation clients. I get a lot of CEs coming in for interview coaching. I get a lot of just GCP in general. So I think I don't have like the perfect idea of the landscape, but CE hires are tight. And at this point, yeah, it's definitely going to be into next year, but there's a good opportunity there and just keep the pulse on it. But CEs have definitely slowed down. Hi, Jeff. I made it to HC at Google, waiting for their feedback, but the person who is following my application told me that he is confident I'm going to be okay. Thanks for your videos. Amazing. Yeah, and they should be able to tell you like, hey, it looks good. I'm hearing this positive. They're not going to have access to all the data, but that's great news. Come back next year and let us know how it goes. My RRK2 interview was scheduled for an hour, but it overran by 20 to 25 minutes. As Jeff says, if people like you, they'll possibly spend more time knowing you, unsure how applicable it is conversely. Yeah, and I agree with that. And some of the stuff we have to go to like the dating analogy, right? If anybody's going on a first date, for example, or yeah, let's just call it a first date. If that date's not going well with whoever's sitting across the table from you, you're not going to hang out for a really long time. You're going to have that fake phone call planned. I have an emergency. I need to get out of here, whatever it might be. So usually we spend more time with people we really like. Typically, it's not 100%, but it's usually the case. Yes, ghosting is common nowadays. Not sure if it can happen at Google, but it happened at Databricks. Okay. Yeah, and that's too bad because Databricks is a good organization. But when this ghosting happens, we've got to try our best to hold these people accountable, whether that's in a survey, whether that's putting them on blast on LinkedIn in a positive way, like whether that's, we just got to figure out a way to hold these organizations accountable. If you're getting ghosted, it's unacceptable. And I think the organization would be really unhappy if they knew. So we've got to get to the appropriate people to let them know what happened. Because if they don't know what happened, they can't help establish change and make it better. And that's why I'm shocked at Google, right? Anybody who works there can go and watch any of my content. They can jump into any of these lives and see the massive inconsistency in the recruiting process. And I'm going to go into it right now. I mean, I reached out to 2 higher ups at Google about 2 years into the business, and I told them both that I had a ton of data that I could provide for them for free, that I was willing to meet with the leadership team for free to share the data, and they both said no, they weren't interested. So what that was telling me is that these people who are leaders at Google weren't interested in improving the process. I wasn't asking for anything. I just wanted to give and help. Both those people are no longer with Google, by the way. Did you help give an estimate for total comp for a CE L4 and located in Dublin? Yeah, L4 CE in Dublin. I would really want you to be pushing to the mid ones, maybe a little bit higher than mid ones, that 160-ish total. If we're just going to translate everything into euros in year one, something like that, maybe 165 in year one, something like that. I have worked with CEs across Europe, so I think that's a pretty good pulse for that role. Maybe a tiny bit higher for Dublin, but something around that. Oh, sorry, we hit that one up. Thanks for your advice. The offer was verbal and we discussed comp, but it was never written. I tried the 2 recruiters and no response. I'll try the HM and others next time. Wasn't sure if this is normal. No, I mean, ghosting is not normal. Ghosting, like when recruiters ghost, it's really bad systems and processes. And so this is so much of why I'm building this new business. I could help all these companies, and I could help the Googles and Metas and Amazons of the world with their recruiter training and interview training. I don't think they're going to want to work with somebody like me. I think they'll go to somebody who's more experienced, has a bigger brand, etc. But the reality is that you get ghosted because organizations don't set specific systems and processes in place that are very simplistic. And they're definitely not utilizing the tools that we can use. There's so many great integrations with ATS systems now where candidates can check into their overall flow. Like, we can automate almost all of this now. We can almost automate the recruiters out at this point. Honestly, I don't think that the recruiter role will be around for a lot longer. Now, sourcers, people who go and find the people, I think there's always going to be somewhat of a need for that. Just because you can get really creative where AI maybe will have more rigidity in terms of how they look at potential candidates, where like there might be more flexibility, more of a lens, looking at it from more of an inclusivity perspective of somebody's talents that may not be exactly aligned with the position. So I think sourcing will always be around, but the integrations with ATS systems, I mean, they're so unbelievable now that this should never happen. So it's systems and process. Sorry, I know that was a tangent. All right, any idea for a TAM role in Europe in terms of total comp for L4? I need the location. So for anybody, it's really important in location, right? If you're in Warsaw, it's going to pay way less than you're in Zurich. And just like if you're in the US, right? If you're, if you're in the Bay Area, it's going to pay a lot different in Atlanta, for example. So same sort of thing. So always with location, that's going to help me help you. Last Thursday, I had the team match, and the recruiter told me he gave me the green light and would like to have an additional team match call with the staff manager as well. It's a great sign. Go in with, let's see what your secondary question is. Assuming the recruiter has all the package to be reviewed at HC today, when is the fastest date to schedule HC? Oh, it's just how many times HC is going to meet for the rest of this year. My best guess is that HC probably won't meet next week. This is probably the last week. So how quickly they can get you in there, I'm not sure. But is this a good sign? Yeah, it's a great sign. Just remember, continue to bring that great excitement and enthusiasm in with this next staff manager call as well. Keep that positive momentum going. And good luck. Come back next year and let us know how it goes. The person who got an offer but still ghosted probably didn't give his or her notice to the current company yet. So posting on LinkedIn is basically telling everyone I'm leaving my job. Yeah. Good point. Yeah, I think that yes, that if you're in your current role and happy in your current role and you don't want to let the whole world know, that is a very valid data point. Yeah, you probably wouldn't want to post that. Okay, that's a bad idea. Yeah, I'm going to take it back. I don't like my idea. I've actually never pitched that idea, and that is a great reason why. Like, if you're not currently working, I think it's okay. But yeah, if you like your job or you don't want to socialize the fact that you're looking, it would be a bad move. Thank you so much for that comment. I appreciate that. Hi, Jeff. How does the team matching process work in general? Would HMs go to the tracker when they need someone and just check out the candidates in the pool, or would the recruiters sell you? A little bit of both. Yeah, it's a little bit of both. Thanks for continuing to do these in the face of tough times, Jeff. Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to note for the record, like, I just, again, I think everybody kind of knows my foundation is graciousness, kindness, gratitude. I am in an incredibly fortunate position. I am in a rare, rare position in my life that few people have the opportunity to be a solopreneur, run a successful business. I can live anywhere and do this job. Like, I have massive amounts of gratitude. So I am not struggling, but it's looking at the economics of it, right? And I think the biggest thing when we look at all these companies, right, is we talk a lot about comp because we're trying to be financially free. And then when we set financial freedom goals, then we can start to look at, well, how do we want to build that comp to get to that financial freedom? And then when we're there, we can decide whether we keep working or not. So for me, I have a personal age where I want to be financially free. And at that age, I'm going to decide whether I keep working or not. Now, I will, because I love this stuff. And I just want to always use my mind and continue to like push the limits of what I can learn and how I can grow. But in order for me to achieve that target, right, sometimes that means I need to shift the business. And I think this is the interesting thing. We have an audience of people who are looking to mostly get corporate jobs, but never forget that sometimes all those corporate learnings can lead for you to be an entrepreneur. And I never thought that that's the path I would take. It just kind of worked out that way. I just wanted to drop in and say hi, and happy holidays. You helped me get my role at G about 7 months ago, and I still point folks to you and your services. Keep it up. Thank you so much for that. The biggest gift that you can give me, this is why I do not have a membership program. This is why I don't have a program like Buy Me a Coffee instituted. This is why my Slack group is free. I don't need any of that stuff. I just need the community and people like you to just kind of say, hey, if you're going after this or you're interviewing, like, check out Jeff's channel. That is the biggest gift anybody can give me, is just to grow the awareness that, a lot of the information out there is really, really cookie cutter. And a lot of people are saying the same exact things. And the only reason why I can even say a few things that are a little different is because of this community. Because I've just done probably more practice interviews and negotiation sessions than anybody. I mean, just consistency wise, most people don't do this as full-time work. Most people do it as part-time work. So I've had the good fortune to do it full-time and just learn a ton from all the offers, from all the interview coaching. Yeah. Thank you for that. I got my final offer from a recruiter for an L5 UX position in Cambridge. Awesome. 174.20, 420K in stock, 4 years. Is this a good offer? 174, 420, L5. Okay, so let me just do some simple math here. So 174, it's an L5, so 15%, so 200, and then 3. Yeah, I mean, it's a good offer. Yeah, I mean, it just depends on how many times you negotiate. This is a good offer. I think you might be able to get a little bit more in regards to stock. I mean, remember, my job as a negotiation coach, when I do it, not in your case, you're too far along, but see if you can push a little bit more on the equity. Sometimes the last push is really small. I'll push for like 40K more in equity. If we can just get the total equity to 460K, I'd be willing to sign the offer. These last pushes can be so impactful because it literally takes about 15 seconds of an ask, 10 seconds of an ask. And sometimes it can mean more than 10K a year. We'd all trade seconds for $10,000 always, right? I think the vast majority of us would. So you could always ask. It's a good offer, as is. Cambridge office. So I'll go on a little storytelling. The Cambridge office is so crazy for me because I am originally from Boston, and the Cambridge office is at 5 Cambridge Center. Back in the day, forever ago, it's not on my LinkedIn profile. I used to work at MIT, and I worked in that same building. And now where the Google gym is in the Cambridge office, where the treadmills are, is where my desk used to be. And so it's just very surreal. So I moved to California. I left MIT when I moved to California, and it was just so surreal to go back as a Google employee and literally be in the same building in the same spot where I used to work as Google. But that office is great. They have like a tea themed, that the tea is their subway, tea themed office. It's just one of my favorites. In 3 or 4 years, do they give refreshers to match? Yeah, so you'll go up over time. It's not going to be like, it's not even going to be like flat. It's gonna go up because refreshers will keep you up. You'll definitely be at a 6. So that'll be a nice base bump. Refreshers will be really good. So you're not going to go flat. You'll keep going up over time. Re-CFAS method. Do you think it's okay to state assumptions before the framework? No, I do not. And I have practiced a lot on this. And this is a really great question. Why? Because it's so weird to bring the assumptions after the framework. It's not natural. But almost 100% of the time, assumptions before the framework will just mean that after the framework, we reiterate our assumptions, we forget our assumptions, we add new assumptions in. The method is very specific for a reason. It is very natural to bring those assumptions in after the clarification, but it doesn't work. It's a bad strategy, in my opinion. And I have tested this so many times. And the funny side note story, we're going into a lot of storytelling today, sorry. But the funny side note is that my program and project manager, who worked for me for like 15 months, he tried to argue this approach, and we tested it, and instantly he got what I was saying, because we tested, and I've tested this with thousands of clients. So no, you've got to stick to the method. The order is very specific for a reason. Great question. Hey Jeff, I failed a T match last week for an ABP. My recruiter said that my feedback was great and nothing to improve on. How can I stand out in the future with T matches with all the competition? ABP T matches are hands down one of the hardest, if not the hardest. This is just Tina, our superstar, rock star ABP. Make sure that you're connecting with her in the Slack community. But there's really nothing that she's going to tell you that's going to help. It's just the chemistry. You just got to keep trying, stay in touch with your recruiter. The ABP T match process is long, exhausting. So you just got to keep at it. But there's nothing more than you can do. Okay. It's just tough. Hey, Jeff, new to your channel. Does Google hire project managers with a technical background only? Nope. There's lots of non-technical roles, but you would need experience in the domain. So like what in the mortgage servicing domain connects with, maybe they don't call them project managers, they call them program managers, because they work on larger overarching programs. So how does that experience translate into maybe a more junior program manager with Google? What are the domain skills that you bring to the table? But yeah, they absolutely hire non-technical program managers. Is a CE a customer engineer like GCP? Yes. CE stands for customer engineer, and they are for GCP. That's correct. Hey, Jeff, thanks for practicing with me last week. Absolutely. My phone interview with Google Recruiter last Monday, but the recruiter didn't ask me any behavioral question or hypothetical one. Not uncommon. Because she said another recruiter has done this before in September, and Google wouldn't ask similar things in a short period of time. Instead, the recruiter asked me about if there's any change in my experience compared with my previous application, questions on the role that I'm applying for, and even the expectation of salary. Is this usual or not? By the way, she hasn't given me any update on the interview. I sent her a follow-up email this Monday. Should I keep waiting? Because she's mentioned there's many applications, including internal transfers. Everything might go slowly. Yeah, if you checked in on Monday, just wait all week. Check in next Monday. But that, as we kind of discussed, is the most common recruiter conversation. It's not going to have behavioral or open-ended or hypothetical questions. Usually they just ask you about your experience. They want to know how things stand, excitement of the role. They're definitely checking communication skills, but that's the most standard recruiter call is that one. Your previous ones were outliers, but continue to work and prep on your interview skills in general, okay? And keep us posted. Come back next year. Let us know what's going on. Any idea for a TAM role in Europe in terms of compensation? Milan. Okay. TAM role in Europe in Milan, I'm going to imagine that it's going to be maybe low in comparison to some other markets. You know, I would be hoping for maybe something around 100K in total compensation year one. And that's, remember, localizing with the currency, because the equity will always be USD. But if the translation something around that 100 mark, maybe a little bit lower in Milan. I hope that helps. Mid-November, an Amazon recruiter reached out and asked to interview with them. I said yes, but they haven't responded since. On the flip side, I just passed the Google phone interview yesterday. Okay. I mean, Tom, what you could do is you could just let them know and send them an email and just say, hey, I'm still interested. I just wanted to give you a quick update on my end. Things are progressing with Google, and it looks like I'm going to be moving on to the virtual on-site with Google, but I'd like to explore both companies. See if that does anything. Can I ask what's the salary range for a Fitbit program manager, TPM in London? Level wasn't posted on the job. Yeah, I mean, it would be levels are never going to be posted on the job. So levels would be based on your years of experience. You can check out that levels video I did, but you know, in L4, and this is the other thing, the tricky part of this is that program managers and technical program managers make significantly different compensation. Historically, it was about 10% difference, but in 2022, what I've seen is it's at least a 20% differential, at least in the US. You know, so any program management role, the salary range, remember, they're not just looking at salary, they're looking at total comp. So I would say program manager, L4, you know, you're going to look to hit maybe those mid ones. Technical program manager, maybe a little bit higher, maybe like 175 total comp. I'm putting this in USD numbers, and then L5 would go up. Again, it's a little bit of limited data, so it's not going to be the perfect answer. Thanks for doing these sessions. You're welcome. Thanks for being here. Jeff, Googlers are your great fans. A Googler pointed to you when I asked him about tips for preparation. You're definitely a super successful solopreneur. Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you so much. It is really weird that all these people at Google point candidates to my content, which I think they should just produce on their own, and have some Google branded stuff. And they do. Life at Google, watch some of those videos. They're fantastic. But I would just think that they would create some more content on their own for some of this stuff. C, customer engineer. It's a googly term for, well, yeah, I wouldn't say that, because the architect role is, I think internally they might call it solutions architect, but the straight up externally facing architect roles are going to be more early stage focused on building the architecture, where CEs can have maybe a longer term role, but I know internally the title reads differently. That's weird. How do I determine whether the role I'm interviewing for is niche or high priority role? It's a program manager, TPM, that involves running a clinical study for Fitbit. Is this a hard to fill role? I imagine it's a hard to fill role. It's niche down. We already know that based on the information you told us. Whether it's a total priority role, all roles that are being hired for now have some prioritization. A high priority role, we will never have that data, but that will mean that the comp can go up quite a bit from a normal role. I hope that helps. Interviewing for an L5, L6, but don't meet expectations. Is there a chance you'll get the job, but at L4? Also, what should I do when I lose my train of thought in the middle of an interview? I don't know if you're going in for an L5 or L6, you're probably slated there. To drop you down all the way to L4 probably wouldn't make sense for your career. I can't say 100%. When you lose your train of thought, stop, pause. I'm sorry, lost my train of thought. I'd like a moment to gather my thoughts. Just be honest with your interviewer. Sometimes it's a great opportunity for them to remember that interviewing is hard. So just pause and just say, I lost my train of thought. Give me a moment. And I lose my train of thought during these lives. So not a big deal at all. And again, sometimes that helps put the interviewer in your shoes. Maybe it teaches them a little bit of empathy in the moment. Got a call from Peloton last Tuesday from a recruiter who said she'll get back to me by last Friday. She didn't. Sent a follow-up email yesterday. Does this mean they're probably declining? Nope. It's just maybe a recruiter who's not as organized as we would like, right? So you sent a follow-up email yesterday. Just wait the rest of the week and either check in on Friday or Monday of next week. Hi, Jeff. I work with one of the vendors at Google. Does it help when applying for a program management role? Yeah, I mean, you work with a vendor at Google. Now, a vendor's not going to be able to refer you. So I don't know. I don't know. If you can get to somebody who's full-time and get a referral, that would help, but vendors cannot technically provide referrals. Thank you. I love my community. Thanks for being here. I'm just a little worried because the recruiter contacted me and said I'll be evaluated at higher levels, but I don't have direct experience. Yeah, I can't say for sure if they down level you. It just, there's too much unknown data on my end that unfortunately I can't see. So you're just going to have to talk to them about it, have a really candid conversation with them. Yeah, it's just hard for me to know all the data, the criteria, everything that's been set forward. Unfortunately, that's going to make me a little less helpful. Okay, we're coming to the end of questions. If any additional questions come in, we're here now. Please ask them. End of the year. I'm going to go into my sum up and then I'm going to answer any last questions that come in. $100 off interview mastery course. If you use the coupon code 2022, this is the time to do it. This is the time to take the course. You have the time. It's the end of the year. Spend some of that time doing your interview prep so you're ready to go in, get into these job interviews next year. I do interview coaching and negotiation coaching. I'm going to be working the last 2 weeks of the year. So if you want to hop in, need any of that help, I'll be around. Join our Slack group. It's free. Check out those 9 free resources on practiceinterviews.com. They are there to help you. They're great resources, I think, and you get really good feedback on them. I will be back on January 2nd with a new content video. If you did not check out the one I did yesterday, check it out. It's going to be super helpful. If you're prepping over the last couple of weeks of the year, use these AI tools to help you, especially with your hypothetical answers, okay? If you like what I did today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, consider subscribing, and I will be back next year. Thank you so much. I'm going to take any final questions that come in. Finished first interview with the manager, then invited to 4X interviews. Recruiter asked for availabilities last Wednesday. I reply with availabilities for this week, but recruiter hasn't responded. What to do next? Will interviews be postponed to January? Follow up and give your availability for the rest of this week, next week, and the first 2 weeks of next year. Let's just make it super easy on them. It may go to next year, okay? But just get that availability out in front so even if it is next year, it can be scheduled now. Thank you. The GPT-3 video was really neat. People have been posting videos of doing coding technical interviews against GPT-3 too. It's kind of uncanny. Yeah, just remember, we can look at these AI tools as the end of certain things, or we can take these AI tools, we can adapt to the technology, and we can figure out a way to live in a world where we get these great answers to all these items. And this goes back to way earlier in the live where I was asked the question, what's more important, technical or communication? I think technical skills are really important, but communication is going to be paramount and critical as we move forward and we're able to use more tools to get work done. Staff customer engineer, L6, senior customer engineer, L5. Yeah. Yep. That looks about right. Yeah. Happy holidays, Jeff. Thanks for all your help. More power to you. Thank you, everybody, so much for being here. Enjoy the rest of your year. Be safe. And I will be back next year. Thank you so much. Take care.